I would say this, it was one of the hardest challenges in my life. Because it was the first time. I mean, I was always doubted. A lot of people had doubted me throughout my life. And because I didn't have my father, and because I went through a really big bout of depression throughout that period, but right before that period of time in my life. And I wanted to end my life a couple times, but something just kept driving me. This inner force just kept saying, "You're built for this." That's the saying. That's the saying I always say to myself when I have challenges. I say, "Justin, you're built for this. You're built for this. You're built for this."
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Masters of Business. I am your host, Brother Bedford, and with me today is one of my dear brothers in these internet marketing streets, one of the legends who's been out here doing this for quite some time. I mean, when I first got started, he was one of the individuals that I bumped into along the way who was out here doing some big things. There's a few names that you kind of recognize off the top, the Stephen Pierce, the Ty Cohens, the Ron Douglases, but then you have the Justin Burns as well. I can't leave you off that list here, brother. It's somebody that I've seen from afar doing some things and really kind of different than the majority of us who is just selling information. You kind of deal with the information, but you went into a space that many of our people have no clue about, man. So I really want to dive into how you got into this software as a service space, man. I think that's going to be an eye opener for many of our listeners. So let me just read this quick bio. With me and Justin, we were talking before we got started. Now I was talking about sometimes I'm reading War and Peace or Gone with the Wind with some of the bios, and Justin has the shortest bio that I've probably ever seen in my life. So I'm just going to read just the context of it because I want you to know exactly who he is and what he does, and then I want him to explain it in his own words, really giving us the backstory. So Justin Burns, he's a go-to authority when it comes to online selling success in this digital age. Not only is he the brains behind the best-selling digital marketing book, The ExpertCode, he is also the founder of Miestro, and that's what I was talking about. Now, we really want to dig into Miestro today. And Miestro is an online course creation platform, and now I think you even use the language of master classes. This platform allows you to create stunning online courses and master classes, as I just mentioned, with the fastest and easiest all-in-one platforms that you can literally be up in minutes, blasting your content all around the world. So without further ado, first, thank you so much for joining me, Mr. Justin Burns.
Yeah, glad to be here, Brother Bedford. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Man, I'm honored, man. You and I have had several conversations, but again, schedules, we hadn't been able to kind of connect and make this work. But man, this is something that I really wanted to talk to you about, because I just think in this space where we just talked about these digital marketing or these internet marketing streets where so many people are becoming virtualized. Now, if you're not online, you're kind of missing the boat, but you've been at it for a while. But again, you have this different take. We're not just talking to you because you're in the space of providing information. You literally provide the platform so that people can get their information out, which is big. That's different for us, right? We're normally getting on somebody else's platform, but you decided to build the platform. So before we get into first, what got you into building the platform? How did you get into software development? Give us the backstory before, these internet marketing streets. Who is Justin Burns?
Yeah, man. So who is Justin Burns, man? When people ask me that question, man, that has changed. We like the evolution that I've experienced, that God has allowed me to experience. Man, it's hard even thinking back on the brother that I was, the man that I was, or should I say the lack thereof, because a lot of us, especially Black men, we're not taught, how to respond emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually as a man. What does that look like? And so I grew up on the south side of Chicago, man, and that always has a connotation to it.
Yeah.
When you say that, they just like, wow, how did you go from growing up in that environment to having a software company? I'm sure we'll fill in the gaps as we go along. But one of the things, man, is I grew up in a single family household. My father was on drugs, and it was really, really mind opening for me. But I think, through all of the chaos, through all of the turmoil, through all of the trials and tribulations, we all have a gift. And luckily for me, I paid attention to that gift early on. And so, from being bullied, from, getting jumped every other day. My mom had to transfer me to the suburbs of Chicago because she's like, no, I can't keep you in the inner city. Because the thing about that is sometimes in those neighborhoods, you don't have a choice. You have to either be on this side or this side. Ain't no really middle ground. You understand what I'm saying? So I had to choose a side. My mom didn't really like what I was becoming. I was the brother who surprisingly sagged his pants. I had braids. You can't even imagine me at all.
That's a picture I can't even imagine.
Yeah, man, that's I'm still trying to find that picture of my photographs because people do not believe me when I tell them I had braids and different things like that. But that's the environment I grew up in, man. And one of the things I realized early on is I would have these kind of moments where I would space out when people would be doing stuff and I would just be doing some really critical thinking. And what my mind was doing at the time was I was like learning, but it was like in a spatial moment. And what I mean is like, if I saw, because I didn't have a lot of examples, I intuitively knew what was wrong. So like if I saw, say, my sister was dating a certain type of brother, right? I would put it intellectually that I need to figure out how to not be like this. Right. So I didn't have any examples as entrepreneurs, but I knew hearing 4 or 5 people talk to me about it, I knew that was the way to have freedom and to build wealth. And so, man, I'll take you fast forward to my last job that I ever worked, which was a decade ago. I was a cell phone salesman, right? I didn't have much experience. I didn't go to college. And I remember I was sitting in this chair and I almost didn't get hired, man. Shout out to my boy, Mike. Mike was one of my greatest mentors, black man that I had as a mentor. And Mike said, he brings me out to this, the sales floor. He had just hired me. It was like $7.50 an hour plus commission, right? And he says, what do you see? He walks me on the sales floor. He says, what do you see? And I said, I'm wet behind the ears, man. I'm 21. I'm like, people? He said, man, I'm going to give you a life lesson that's going to change your life. He said, how many customers have walked through the door just now? And I said, about maybe 20. He said, has anybody came and greeted them, see what they needed? They're all sitting down, they're lazy. He said, in life, if you could just be a little bit more ambitious than just the rest. Said people are not ambitious. They don't want it bad enough. If you could just be a little bit more ambitious, you'll make way more money. You'll be way healthier. You'll be way stronger. You'll be way mentally more prepared than the average Joe. It didn't really sit in, but I started because, again, remember I told you earlier, I had that gift of really paying attention. So I started paying attention to that. My attention was like, wow. So I started getting up, greeting people. Even if they had a problem, I would bring them over to my desk. I would talk to them. I would ask them how their day is. I would build those connections. I didn't even understand what I was doing at the time. But I was building real world communication skills that I had never gotten in the world. So fast forward, 6 months later, Mike brings me into his office and he said, man, I never could imagine that young, dumb looking kid that walked through my door.
You had the braids then?
No, I had cut him off at that time. Okay. He said, I never could imagine, man, that dumb looking kid who who only had experience as a cashier would become the #1 salesman in my organization. Wow. And I just looked at him and I said, what you say? And he pulls out this spreadsheet And he shows me like 500 salespeople in the company, and my name was number one.
Wow.
And he said, I don't know what type of check you expecting, but just know it's going to be more money than you would have got with a degree. And that check showed up and it said $12,500 in a month.
All right.
And that changed my whole way of thinking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was on top, baby, for 2 years because you couldn't out hustle me.
Right.
I was the hustler. And so I say that story because I had felt like a loser up until that point. And I really realized that was when I found my gifting, which was I could apply this level of thinking to any area of life, man. And so, that's kind of the first transition, right? And then the second transition is, as the years is going past, again, my brain is thinking, and it was this really young white guy who used to come into the cell phone shop, and he had a real estate company. And he used to always say, man, the free, you need freedom, Justin. You need freedom. You need freedom. You got to work for yourself. And I'm like, dude, that ain't me, bro. I don't know anybody in my family who ever started a business. And he said, man, I want to invite you to something. That's when he invited me to this event that changed my life forever. It was an internet event. And I, up until that point, people always say, Justin, did you want to become a doctor, a lawyer? I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do.
Right.
And it's why I didn't go to college. People say, why you go to college? It's not because I couldn't afford it. I could have went in debt. I honestly was just one of those kids was just like, man, if I don't know what I want to do, I ain't gonna force it. Right. Which was really a good decision when I thought back and thought about it.
Right. Yeah. When you reflect on it, absolutely.
Yeah. So I went to this event, man, and I was like a kid in a Christmas. It was like lights was just flashing because I had never seen anything that lit me up. He was like, do real estate. I was like, whatever. Do life insurance. Okay. Right. And then I remember the speaker, man, was saying, this is back in 2011, brother. No, 2009.
Right. Okay.
So you talking about selling digital programs, man. What the hell is what is that? Nobody know what that is. So I'm sitting here and all I heard with this brother say one thing, everything else was spaced out. He said, here's the thing. This is going to be the future of the world. People are going to be able to buy your programs while you're asleep. And they're going to be able to buy it in London, Hong Kong, Asia, United Kingdom. And I was like, what? I've never seen or heard this before in my life. I am going all in.
Right.
And that event really transitioned and changed things for me.
Man, it's a great story, man. It's a great story. I didn't know about the rough beginnings in Chicago. I'm sure that was rough. Southside, you're right. When you're in South Side of Chicago, it's a lot going on the South Side of Chicago. For you to kind of go through that, your mother was strong enough to send you to another school. Now, before you said you weren't feeling, quite confident before you got the job. What was happening during that time to kind of make you feel well you weren't confident, but then you got that epiphany with the sales opportunity?
Yeah, man, I used to make some jokes, man. I used to say that my friends would bet on, when would Justin be fired from his next gig? I had probably lost about 7 jobs up until that point.
Before you was 21?
Before I was 21.
Wow.
Yeah. I just wasn't good at anything at that point because nobody has sat me down and really tried to help me discover my giftings.
Right.
We don't do that because a lot of us don't really know what the hell our giftings are. Right? We don't even know what that means. Right. And so for me, sometimes, remember one of my mentors told me this. He said, sometimes your giftings is covered in a bunch of dirt.
Right.
It's the thing that you struggle with the most and you don't even know it. So a lot of times for me, I have really bad social anxiety growing up because a lot of us have bad social, some level of social anxiety. Mine was bad because I was bullied. I had all this stuff going on. What I didn't realize though, Brother Bedford, is that behind that dirt was my greatest gift. And it was the gift of gab.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't realize, when Mike told me you were good at talking and selling, I looked at him like he lost a couple marbles or a couple screws. You know, I looked at him, man. So for me, I was basically I was hopping around from job to job to job. And it wasn't until I got with Mike, the right mentor,
Right.
to see something, man, that I couldn't see. You know what I'm saying? To say, man, if you do what I tell you to do, you gonna be one of the top sellers in the company. And I remember laughing at this brother. I said, man, I'll just hit it, you know, our thinking, right?
Right.
Even though I'm 21, it's like, man, if I could just make an extra 4 to 3,000, like I'd be rich as hell, you know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying?
That's some cheddar.
But that's some cheddar from where I'm from. You
Right.
know, my mother never made over $30,000 in a single year
Right.
in her lifetime, you know, and to be able to say, man, I did that. It's life changing. You know what I'm saying? So when I saw that $12,000 check,
Yeah.
even though the government took half that joint because I ain't had no kids, and
Right.
I didn't understand incorporation and businesses, different things like that, man, it just changed everything.
Yeah, no, and the reason I asked you that question, because so many people who are, hesitant about going into the space of business and entrepreneurship really suffer with those things, right? Like you said, not feeling adequate or low self-esteem or whatever. But for you to kind of realize at some point that you had a gift. Now, obviously, it took someone to kind of point it out, but here's the thing that I want to kind of get you to kind of expound on a little bit more, because the gift was there. Like you said, it was just buried, but you had to be using it. It was so close to you, it wasn't obvious that you probably were using this gift to talk your way out of different things all along, right? You probably got out of a lot of scenarios by using the gift of gab, but it took using that gift in the right atmosphere. Could you speak to that a little bit? Were you using that gift prior to you really realizing that that's exactly what it was?
Yeah, if you let my mother tell it, I talked my way out of a lot of situations.
Right.
You know, but at the time, nobody would recognize that.
Right.
You know,
They didn't look at it as a gift. They looked at it probably as a curse, right? You talk too
it
much.
was a curse, man. Exactly what you hear in school. You talk too much. Shut up. You know, don't. And that's the way we're conditioned throughout life. You know, and that was me. You know, that was the kid that I was at the time. That was the kid that I thought that I was, until somebody, like you said, pointed that out to me. And then even then, when you get into business, it still needed to be a lot of cultivation, because that level of communication wasn't there. So I had to go through a lot of development to even hone in on the level of communication that I'm able to communicate and articulate at this, at this point, because, I had a lot of disadvantages, but also seen them as advantages that I didn't, that I didn't have. I didn't go to college. So a lot of times my vocabulary was very limited in scope. So I had to overcompensate a little bit. I had to force myself, because a lot of times I would have anxiety attacks trying to read books. So I had to innovate, because I realized that my brain was just programmed that way, right? So I had to overcompensate. So then that's when I found audiobooks, and I started consuming audiobooks. So I would literally, I've been doing this for years. I don't know why the hell I ain't skinny from it, but I would go on these long walks, right? And I would just, throughout the day, I'd be like, I'm not sitting at this desk all day doing all of this work. I would go off and I would just listen to books. And before you know it, I would listen to 3 or 4 books, because I couldn't really read normal books, right? But that changed things for me in a very deep and profound way, for sure.
Man, that's powerful, man. And I definitely want to get to the I guess the life-changing event at the internet marketing. I don't know if it was called a conference, but event, whatever it was at that time. We all went to them, right? Went to them. Before then, you used the word, and even myself, I remember working with some, and it was obviously a lot of guys. And another guy pointed out, he was like, Brother Bedford, he's too ambitious, right? Like he like I wanted something more than what I should have. And I think with men, sometimes we think when a brother is ambitious that he's coming for my thing, right? He's trying to take my spot. When he told you that, that's kind of, because I didn't know. So it had a negative connotation. because when I heard, I was like, no, I ain't ambitious. In a way, like I ain't trying to take nobody's spot, but yeah, I want something out of life, but I ain't trying to take your spot. But when he told you that, when he said that most people aren't ambitious, and then all of a sudden you began to, it clicked and you became ambitious, you did the quiet. How did that work out first when you heard him say it, and then how you began to implement your ambition?
I would say this, it was one of the hardest challenges in my life. Because it was the first time, I mean, I was always doubted. A lot of people had doubted me throughout my life. And because I didn't have my father, and because, I went through a really big bout of depression throughout that period, but right before that period of time in my life. And I wanted to end my life a couple times, but something just kept driving me. This inner force just kept saying, you're built for this. That's the saying. That's the saying I always say to myself when I have challenges. I say, Justin, you're built for this. Right. You're built for this. You're built for this. But one of the things I think that a lot of people fear about being too ambitious and too overly confident is the crab in a barrel mentality. And so what happened is when Mike told me this, he pointed out a few people because I think we had about 20 people had worked at this certain store, and he said, I'm gonna prepare you because here's gonna happen. He was starting to see like the twinkle in my eyes. He was seeing the wheels are turning.
Right.
And he said, you're young, so you're not tainted yet. But these people, man, they're older, they're set in their ways. And what's gonna happen is they ain't gonna like that you're gonna show them up. So they're gonna lie on you. They're going to come at you. They're going to act like they're your friend. And they're going to try to stab you in the back. And I'm thinking, young and naive, right? I'm like, Mike, it's all good. I'm cool, man. I'm a cool dude. Everybody
like
saying
this dude cool. Full of drama, right? You dramatized.
Why you bringing drama to my life, Mike? Like, I'm just trying to collect the check and get on up out of here, baby. Mike bringing this drama in my life. And man, the people I thought I knew, when they start seeing me hungry, I'm talking about they could see the fire in my eyes. I was standing by the door every day. I was staying late. I was coming early. I was just hungry. I wanted it bad enough because of where I came from. Right. These people got comfortable. I was like, man, forget comfort. Like I want it. They could see it. I mean, it was like a lion inside of me had woken up once I seen that first sale. I was like, nah, I want 5 in a day. I want 20 in a day. And it just kept brewing. It kept brewing and it kept brewing. And so guys who would smile at me started like laughing behind my back. They tried to pin something on me like he was stealing phones. That's why he was making sales. But these people knew if you were stealing something, you would be fired. They tried to come up with lies and deceits. Man, it was crazy. And then when Mike was in that meeting, he looked over at me and said, I want to introduce you guys to the #1 salesman in the whole organization. Man, I never seen so many jealous eyes look over at me. And over the next few months, man, I lost a lot of friends. It was a very lonely road. And I tell you that short story too, because it always reminds me of like the road that's least traveled, because that's the hardest part is when you're trying to grow a company, you're trying to do something big. And a lot of us, we're really afraid, not because on what's on the other side, that's a part of the equation, right? A lot of us are afraid to disappoint people. Yeah. It's the biggest travesty because we go to our graves doing something way bigger. That's why I started my software. I didn't care what it took. I didn't care what I didn't know. I didn't care how hard it was. I was like, and I just adopted this mindset. So it has adapted me to the darkness, Brother Bedford. And I think people, when you use that, if you're a God-fearing person, you fear that, but you can't, because we all go through dark times. But the ones who really do something great in life, those are the ones that are adapted to the darkness. And so for me, I've been alone. I've had a father on drugs. I've been broke. I've been, left out in the cold. I've slept on somebody's couch. I've slept on somebody's floor. And so at that point in time, I had to look myself in the mirror and say, man, you're gonna doubt yourself. But one thing we ain't gonna do, I had a rule, right? The rule was this: you got 24 hours to get your ish together.
Right.
So if you upset and you mad and you're going through dark times, go in there, be a human, cry, get it all out. But once that 24 hours is up, get your butt up and make something happen.
It's good.
That's what you got. Some people stay stuck for years, man.
Yeah.
I say you got 24 hours. If something happened, like I got to grieve for a little bit longer because of a death of family, cool. But I think a lot of us don't give ourselves that pep talk of like, it's go time.
Right.
Let's make the impossible happen.
Right. Right. This is good, man. And two things, and of course I want to get to the internet stuff. That's, we want to definitely give some nuggets on, how someone can learn how to do what you do, or even use you and your platform to make some money. But I mean, you're dropping so many seeds here, man. I just can't let them go.
No, brother, let's open them up. Let's crack them open.
Man. So how did you deal with the envy and the jealousy? How did you handle that? I mean, a lot of people say it, and you see all of the Facebook posts or Instagram posts, everybody's talking about haters, this and haters. But that's a totally different, because that's easy. That almost becomes, victim, they hating and this and that and that. But you took whatever envy or jealousy that you witnessed from people that I don't know if, I know that they were acquaintances. I can't say that you loved them, but let's just say you knew them. Maybe they're acquaintances, and maybe some you did love. But yet your success, and it was very small success at first, right? Compared to what you're doing now. But at that time, it's just, a salesman of the month. But how did you take that envy and that jealousy and overcome that and still keep going and not let yourself become one who starts becoming a victim?
Yeah, I mean, when I started seeing that, like I said, I had this gift of paying attention, and I started realizing, and this is not to be judgmental, it's just real. I love my family very much. So what would happen is I would get this jealousy. It was painful. I would come home. And again, I had this gift of processing things, man, really at an early age, 21, really thinking about things in a deep way. And so what would happen is I would, and I'll give you an example so you can kind of understand. Love my mother, right? Did the best she could, but I started to realize, but listen, Justin, your mother has worked and provided great. But here's the thing. She didn't invest any money. She settled on this job. That was, again, she did the best she could, but this is just me being honest and looking at the situation, right? Looking at my sisters and my aunts and my uncles, and, looking at that and saying, man, there has to be more to life than this. Like
that ambition again, right? That's the ambition.
That was the ambition, right? Because once you plant that seed of ambition, it's in, the seed of ambition, I call it the seed of ambition. It's in all of us.
Yeah.
See, that seed of ambition is in all of us, but it's past. See, in order to, this is one thing that really ignited my ambition to be even bigger. Is, see, ambition is beneath beneath the healing. Let me say that again. See, ambition is beneath the healing. So you'll see spouts of it. There's been times all of our lives where somebody say you can't do something, you do it. Right. You're here. My mother, she go broke, not having food to her name, but guess what? She find a way. That's a seed of ambition.
Right.
Now, here's the thing: to do great things in life, it don't matter where you come from, right? It don't matter how smart you are, how dumb. We know some dumb people with a lot of money. And
vice versa. A lot of smart people with
no money.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Correct. But here's what I realized too, that became a gift of mine. I mean, it became such a presence of mine, is the healing of the trauma that I had to endure, of my own trauma, my parents' trauma, especially as a people, are just lineage of trauma. So once you heal, you are able to really become more fruitful and really be able to become more ambitious.
Right.
So that just started to build, man. It just started to build, but I had to build it myself. I had to have a regimen. I had to do something year after year and stack these chips, because nobody, I remember saying it, hearing this, man, nobody is coming to save you. So every time I would get into a really bad corner or situation, I would have to man the F up and say, man, Justin, nobody's coming to save you. You want an education? You're gonna have to go out there and get it.
Right.
There's a library full of books.
Yeah,
You want to be
or listen to 3 books a day or 3 books a week on.
Man, people don't realize how, man, you got YouTube. I wish YouTube didn't have all that stuff in 2008, 2009.
That's right.
They practically, you got free audiobooks.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing though. It's the discipline.
Yeah.
It's doing the stuff that you hate to do. It's doing the stuff that you don't want to do. And so that is what really set me up as saying, Justin, stop whining and make stuff happen. Right. And essentially that's transitioned me into a lot of success. So,
man, this is good stuff. And I love what you just talked about, the year after year. So you start stacking those wins, and that helped to build your confidence, really like building your own platform that you can continue to grow. That's beautiful, dear brother. One last thing, and then we'll get into that meeting, that internet event. You mentioned the suicidal thoughts. I know, and that's huge, man. That's huge for a lot of people. It's definitely growing in our community. It's not something that, we were traditionally thought about, even though I'm sure it existed, but it's not something that we traditionally, at least not talked about openly. But now you hear that a lot. So here it is now, you've battled with some bouts of depression and having these thoughts. Who helped you with those thoughts, or how did you get through that to now? Again, you have a very successful software company, but to have those type of thoughts had to take you to a deep place. How did you come out of there?
So, when I think back on those thoughts, I mean, depressive thoughts, all those different things, they are a result of the bad shit that you think about yourself, right? The bad stuff that you ultimately, their beliefs. And I had just heard that term back in 2012. Again, this is just, I was ignorant. I was like, beliefs, what is that? I thought who you were just who you were, and that was how permanently you are.
Right.
Here's what I didn't realize. I didn't realize that all of your beliefs were handed down to you from somebody else.
Yeah, from somewhere, right?
Your money beliefs, your self-image beliefs of who you are, what you do, your work beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, every single thing, it was given to you. It wasn't created by you, right? And so a lot of us are living these autopilot lives, right? We're autopilot. We're stuck on autopilot. We don't even know what we don't know. We don't know there's a different, we don't know there's a different level of consciousness. We don't know there's a different reality. We don't know that, like, there's some people in the world, if you come from poverty, there's some different people in the world that $1,000 in a day, in an hour, is no money to them. Right? That's abundance. That's called abundant thinking, right? Or just different things. It's so funny. And I tell this because of the lifestyle I live now. I live lavishly, but I'm blessed, right? I got a nice company. I drive a nice car. I live in a high rise in Atlanta, Georgia. My cousins that I grew up with, my mom is bragging, oh, my son is successful. He came from nothing. He built himself up. And it's so funny how my cousins still to this day, man, they treat me really strange. Right. And I'm like you've met, I try to be down to earth. I like cracking jokes. I ain't talking about money. That's just, I love money, but I ain't talking about money, and I'll be like, won't y'all come over, man? Come down the street, come hang out. And they be busy. And it doesn't bother me anymore, man, because I know what that comes with that territory. So for me, like I went, same thing, man. I tell people, if you want to change your life, become a seeker of life. Right. Become so hungry that people look at you as though you've lost some marbles. When I say that, I mean, man, I became obsessed. I started trying different things. Once I heard an audio book, I didn't just sit on the book. I went out and I sought out the author. People used to think I was crazy. I said, if I read a book that was impactful, I'm going to email you as the author.
Yeah.
And guess what? I remember one time, man, I read this book on Amazon. I bought it on Amazon, and it was called Trauma in Sales or something like that. I forgot. I read it back in 2011. It's called Trauma in Sales. And the guy, because I was suffering so much, I had went to the Tony Robbins. Those events are great. Those are good, are a great starting point. But in order to transform, you have to understand how you work and your mind works to make a transformation. And so I started, those things were motivational, but I would come home and want to sleep all day and be depressed. And I look up, 3 months to pass by and I ain't did nothing.
Right.
I'm like, I gotta go deeper. I gotta go deeper. I started doing therapy. That's great, but I needed to go deeper. So I read this book, and that's when I heard the buzz term. It's not even a buzz term. That's when I heard the word belief, that you have these set of thoughts in your brain that fire all the time, and they drive and attract things into your life that you don't even know.
Right.
And on a gut level, it felt so real. And that's when I started to see, I was the type of thing, you know how some people, man, they read one book and they be like, all right, I'm going to the next book.
Right.
See, me, I'm like a lion with everything. See, me, if I read a book and I'm excited, I'm going to the seminar. Right. After that, I'm connecting with the person at the seminar. After that, I'm watching 20 videos on it. After that, I'm going to find a book that connects the dots. So I'm always trying to connect the pieces. And that's how I'm able to really master things and go deep on things. I think people just don't go deep enough to be able to solve these things and understand things at a deeper level. It's how, as we transition to, it's how I got into software, man. I knew nothing about software.
Right.
But once I watched one, you know, people like, Justin have always been a techie, man. Ask my mother. When she used to say, Justin, can you fix my Microsoft Office? Man, I thought she was, I said, man, I don't even know what that is. Right. I could barely cut on, you know, the 96 compact computer towers. Man, that was the best that I knew. I didn't get my first laptop, man, since till I was like 24.
Right.
You know, but I tell people, man, if you want similar success, so people think I went to Harvard, I went to school. No, I was just obsessed with my learning.
Yeah, and this is good, man. It's funny when you mentioned when you read a book, you want to even meet the author. Even my breakthrough product was probably a little bit before 2009. I think in my first interview was probably in 2005, 2006 with Dr. Frazier. That whole Conversations with Black Millionaires series was launched because I stumbled, what we're getting ready to get into, going to the conferences, stumbled into this. There was a book out called Conversations with Millionaires. And I said, man, there's only one Black person was in it. That was Wallace, Famous Amos from Famous Amos Cookies. And that's when that idea hit me about interviewing Black millionaires. But then it was the books that I was reading. So on my desk at that time was Success Runs in Our Race and Think and Grow Rich and Black Choice. So I said, okay, I'm reading the book. And these were the first two people that I wanted to interview. So I called and got those interviews. So just to your point about not just reading the book, but I wanted to interview Dr. Frazier. I wanted to meet him. And then now, years later, you know, a great mentor and friend of mine, but it started, as you mentioned, not just reading the book and staying on the surface, but going deeper, doing the interview, going to the conference, taking the courses, developing a relationship. And hence, here we are years later, man. That's beautiful, man. I hope that everybody's picking up. You make sure you like this, make sure you love this, make sure you share this with 100 of your best friends or foes who you know could benefit from all of these nuggets that Justin is sharing with us about environment, overcoming deep, dark places, thoughts, having ambition. We're getting ready to get into the sales and being innovative. I mean, there's just so many nuggets that you drop in there, and I thank you.
And let me say this too, because I mentioned this on a really big podcast recently. I said, you know, and that clip went viral. That clip probably had about 100,000 views on, I think it was TikTok or YouTube. I mean, Instagram. I think it was on Instagram. Had 100,000 views. I said, you know, one of the greatest things that I've done and I'm still doing to this day is you have to master boredom.
Yeah.
You have to master boredom. See, boredom, what a lot of people don't realize, and I learned this from one of my favorite books in the world. It's called The 48 Law. I mean, the 50th Law. I know, you know, guys got Robert Greene, but the 50th Law was even more powerful than the 48 Laws of Power. And the 50th Law mostly talked about that the greatest thing that you see from the masters is they know how to master boredom. We talk about mastery. We talk about reading books. We talk about doing it, your craft, all that motivational stuff, man. But listen, the masters know how to master boredom. They know how to sit in a room for months and months and months on end, whether they go out or not, and they know how to sit there and just be obsessed with their craft. So if anything, you just have to learn how to master boredom. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, no, that's good. In fact, just last night I had a conversation. Another one of our dear friends said something similar, that the best businesses that you see, they're really boring businesses. When you know, we see all of the sexy stuff, or the consumers see all the sexy stuff, but the internal happenings, the infrastructure, it's so boring, but that's what makes it successful. And so I totally agree with you. We're boring people. Just got to admit it. You know, we're boring people. We don't do a whole lot of things. We do a lot of study. So this is good stuff. I'm taking all of these notes. Now that we're transitioning, this internet event that you went to, what happened at that event where your eyes were open, you're looking around, you see all of this stuff, and they're telling you about products and programs. What happened at that event, and then what did you do from there?
Yeah, man. So I went to this event, and I met this other guy there, and we're still friends almost a decade later. I've talked to him a little bit, but I met this guy, and we, you know, network. I didn't know what the hell networking was at the time.
Right.
I didn't know what networking was. I just figured I say hi to this guy, even though I was really socially awkward at the time. And this guy, man, he took a liking to me. He's like, "Yo, what's up, man? You know, I got this social media company." Now, back in 2008, if you even said the word social media around a business person, man, you got a check. If you knew how to set up a Facebook profile, you got cut a check. And so this guy was like, "Hey, man, we're starting this social media company. We're helping brands to get on Facebook. They don't know what the hell a fan page was. They didn't know any of those things. It was
fan pages exist then? I don't even think the fan page.
It was new. It was new. I think it did. But here's the thing. It bring up old good times, man. The thing is, remember, everybody was going crazy about those. See, you got the square banners now on the fan pages like this. But see, back in the day, they were like this. Remember? And man, you could charge a company, man, a few $1,000s to design those banners and upload it for them. Because they realize, oh, we need to be on social media. We don't know what the hell we need to do. But at that time, Facebook wasn't doing anything and throttling stuff. So you could post and reach everybody who was on your fan page. So if you had 4,000 fans, your 4,000 fans would see, you know, all of that stuff.
Right.
So, you know, man, I was really intrigued. And so fast forward, the company was laying off people. I kept in contact. Dude's name was Brad. I kept in contact with him. And he said, "Listen, man, I'm starting this company in California, and you should come out and help out." Now, look, he said, "I'm a startup. I can't pay you a lot. I can pay you a little bit, but it ain't going to be a lot." And so I call this, man, like the destiny moment, right? And the destiny moment is you being faced with a really tough decision that on a gut level, you know, you need to make. And so I took the last of my money, because I wasn't smart with my money at the time. I took the last of my money and I told my mother, I said, "I'm going to go do this thing full time with these guys." And she was, you know, "What, you're going to throw your life away? All right, have you lost your marbles? What is going on with you, boy? You know, you need to get a job." But something greater inside of me was like, you got to take the risk. And I went out there, man, on a flight out to San Diego, living in this 2-bedroom apartment, building this company. And I got a chance. The first thing that I saw, he was like, "Well, first, even though we're going to be selling these clients, we're going to be building these digital products." So he had this, all he had was this microphone sitting on the table. He had a laptop, and he said, I'm about to do this thing called a webinar. And I get it. Listen, this is back in 2011. I don't know what the hell a webinar is, right? I don't know what that means, right? And so I'm like, what is that? He's like, well, here's the thing. These people are going to be on this computer and I'm going to be, he had to break it down to what it was, man. And he's like, these people are going to be on the other side of this computer and they're going to be, I'm going to be presenting. I'm going to sell this program for social media and I'm going to sell this ebook. I'm going to sell this thing called a course. That's when the first time I heard the word course. This is 2011. I was like, a course? What is a course? He said, well, people get to study these videos, man. And so I was like, okay, interesting. Not knowing that a decade later, I'll have a course platform, right? So I'm watching these guys present. There's 600 people. They're presenting, they're talking, and they go, the price is $500. And to get somebody to pay you $500 in 2010 and 11 from an event, man, you had a skill of persuasion, right? So watch these guys. So at the time, it was one shopping cart. This is what I'm telling everybody who's watching this. If you are watching this, the only thing that's stopping you from making money and having an internet business is your belief system. Because I watched people in 2010, 11 have only one or two options that were usually broken.
Yeah.
And they made 6 figures in a day, some of them. I watched it. This is what changed my belief pattern.
Right.
Now you got 30 options. Now you got 15 different
on the low end.
On the low end.
Right.
Now you got, back in the day, I tell people, that's why people say I'm an OG. I said, damn, I must be an OG now.
Internet streets, man. That's you.
I said, I must be an OG in the internet streets because I said, man, y'all don't understand how good you got it. Y'all got Stripe, y'all got PayPal. You can set up a bank account in 5 to 10 minutes or 24 hours and be up and processing money.
Yeah.
You got to know how to get customers. Now, back in the day when we wanted to process, man, you had to fill out a whole death certificate. You had to fill out 20 pages of notes. You had to get 20 signees. Yeah. You had to sign away your bank account.
Yeah.
And you had to go through a whole process just to get a processor to approve you.
That was a thorough credit check. When I just had that conversation with I said, you just don't understand what we had to go through to just get a merchant account nowadays.
Get a merchant account, right? To get PayPal,
and you in the game.
Now you set up a Stripe account, which is we integrate with them. You set up a Stripe account and you process it in 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So at that time, man, I'll never forget, there was one shopping solution called One Shopping Cart. That was
my first one. That was mine too. Yeah.
That was the only solution that was out there, man. Mm-hmm. And they said, I remember just the naive of the conversation. I said, wait a second. Are they going to mail the checks in? And they like, nah, man, they're going to put their credit card into this thing. I said, man, ain't that scammy? I didn't know any better, right? So he's like, let's just do the event, man. Ask me questions later. So they do this hour-long event and they refresh and they kept refreshing the shopping cart and it said $30,000 in sales.
Man.
1 hour of presenting. And I remember looking at that screen and I said, y'all doing something scam.
Right.
Like, y'all,
illegal.
Y'all, this is illegal. Y'all selling something else. Who in their right mind would buy a digital program for $500? And he said, listen, man, this is the future of the world.
Right.
And I was so solidified in my brain that this is going to be the new way that people acquire skill set. It started to click after a while. And I saw him make $30,000 an hour. And I'll never forget, man, I made a decision. I said, I'm going to commit most of my life's work to making this part work of my life. And that's what I've been doing for the past decade.
Man, that's awesome, man. Beautiful story, man. Yeah, and you brought back memories. I'm sitting up here thinking about the merchant accounts and one shopping cart. There were no landing pages and none of that type of stuff. So
no builders, man. I say, man, I remember I had this hand-me-down MacBook in 2012. It was a broke MacBook, man. And I remember being so frustrated because there was no such thing as a page builder. You had to learn some level of coding
Yep.
to put together a web page, or you had to hire somebody for $1,000 just to be able to do it. And I
If
remember
not
trying
more, if not more.
it was way more. And
Yeah.
I remember, man, um, I remember, man, I threw that laptop across the room and broke it. And I was pissed at myself because it was so frustrating. And I say that to say, man, same with the merchant account. Um, Tools like Maestro, tools like different things like that. Man, the world is your oyster. You just have to believe in yourself that you have an audience out there that wants what you have to offer.
Yeah.
That's the only belief you have to have, man. You could pay $100, $200, $300 a month and have a fully functioning business. Man, life is good, man.
It is. It is. It is. And look, again, if you're watching this by now, you should have shared this with about 10, 20, 30 people by now. Hopefully you're taking copious notes. You need to watch this one over and over again. And first off, I got to say, you got to come back, right? We got to do another. We got to do a part 2. Because I mean, you don't plan to see those. There's so many other questions I want to ask you, but we just don't have the time to do it. So he's coming back. But make sure you share this one now. But now let's get into Maestro, man. I mean, so here it is. You're learning all of this internet stuff. You've gotten over the phase that this is illegal or it's a scam, and you can't be doing this. Now you said, let me get into this industry, but you didn't start with software. How did you just move into Maestro and now have this beautiful platform that does everything that you thought was illegal a decade ago?
Yeah, man, it's interesting, man. Like, a lot of people don't realize that the stepping stone is just like that. It's a stepping stone. So from there, I was always really scared of doing something. I would try all this stuff. So I tried affiliate marketing. That's the art of selling other people's products on the internet. Then I hopped around to learning SEO. I hopped around to so many different things because really the reality is I didn't believe in myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just tried all these different things. And then I settled on one skill set that made me a lot of money over the years. And I was just drawn to it because of the fact I was a salesperson naturally. I drew to this skill called copywriting. And so copywriting is the things that you guys see on websites, the art of persuasion in written form, the ability to see the difference between writing and copywriting is different. Writing is to try to connect with the person, right? But the art of copywriting is to understand a person at their deep core level, right? That's the difference.
Yeah.
When you understand how to do copywriting and you do this in your products and your services, that's what gets people to buy.
Yeah, I was just about to say you're persuading people to do what you thought was illegal, which everybody thought was illegal, to convince people to pull out a credit card in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and pay $500 online. That you have to be able to speak to people in a different type of way. So I just wanted to kind of expound on that because that's exactly what we had to learn how to do in order for people to trust you and do what you said. Man, this got to be a scam because who's going to do that? But now it's commonplace now, but the art is not commonplace. So go on, Justin. I just wanted to kind of expound on it.
Yeah. And it's the art. And so I dedicated a few years to this skill set, and I went to this conference. And there was a guy there was a guy who I followed online, and I wanted to meet him. I wanted to work with him. And I had tried Facebook. I had tried Twitter. At the time, Twitter was popping. I had tried Twitter. I tried all these different things, and he wouldn't respond. I emailed him. He wouldn't respond. So I saw that he was going to be a speaker at a conference. See, this is how bad you got to want it. So I got on a plane, and I flew to this conference. And I got there, and the tickets to get to meet the speakers were way higher than, at the time I could even pay for. It was just like astronomical. I was like, I can't do this. So I remember I was frustrated, and I went to the bar, and I sat at the bar at the conference, and I remember ordering a beer. I ordered this beer, and I didn't even drink much, but I was stressed out. Okay. I needed a little something. So I drank a little beer and I'm sitting there, and guess who comes sits beside me?
The person you wanted to meet.
The person I wanted to meet. And I thought I was seeing double vision. I said, wow, it's crazy when you go after your dream, what happens. So I didn't get too excited. And then he leans over, he says, what's up, man? He said, that's my favorite beer. And that's what struck off the conversation. He said, what do you do? And I told him I'm a copywriter. He said, I'm looking for a copywriter.
Wow.
I'm looking for a copywriter. He said, yeah, man, when you get home, let's connect. So I'm thinking, he just kind of, pulling my chain, but I called him and he answered. He said, hey, I got this gig for you. I'm going to pay you a few $1,000s. You can do it. I'm like, all right, best. I did it. He launched it and he generated about $200,000 in about 2 weeks. Guess whose best friend he became?
Right. No doubt about it.
Right. So that gig lasted for a year, but here's what happened. I started seeing, we started becoming friends. He took me to these different conferences and I started to notice a trend because I was getting burnt out in the coaching space and consulting space and self-service space. I wanted to do something more impactful. And I remember he took me to this tech conference and I'm sitting in the crowd and it's only about 3 or 4 African-Americans in the crowd. Mm. And I'm watching these guys have these high-level conversations about tech and how the world is shifting towards tech. And they're laughing. I sold my company for $1 billion. Ha ha ha. I sold my company for 300 million. And I'm thinking, I haven't heard anybody having these conversations on this level. So I left up out of there and I became real comfortable with the guy because the guy was, he was a white guy. And I just I said, man, there's really nobody that looks like me in there. And he was like, man, you should change that. And I said, and I looked at him and I said, well, what would I build? I was really like, what would I build? And I was like, where would I get the money? It was all these questions that were just, I'm not a technical person. I would have to find this. And so this guy had built this company. And so here's what I did. I made him an irresistible offer. I thought about it. I said, man, instead of me trying to figure this out, man, why don't I go to somebody who has done it before? And I made him an offer that he was paying me at the time, let's just say 5 figures a month because I was making him a lot of money. And I said, hey, how about this? I got an offer that you're not going to be able to refuse. I said, listen, I'm going to pay you. I said, you're not going to pay me anymore. You're not going to pay me. And that hurt. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm saying this for. But I said, you're not going to pay me.
You couldn't call those words back. Once they couldn't call them back.
And I couldn't call those words back, man. I said, man, I'm make your offer, can't refuse. You're not going to pay me. I'm going to write copy for you, but you're going to teach me everything you know about the tech industry, about how to hire developers, how to make good software, how to run it, how to run teams, how to do all those things. You're going to teach me those things. And he looked at me and he was like, let me think about it. And then as time progressed, I just kept wearing him down like Ali, baby. Just kept hitting him. And then eventually he taught me and I developed, my first app was an app called Script Engage. It was a copywriting software because that's what I knew. And I remember we put 5,000 customers on that platform and just the rest was history. And from there, I just dedicated years and years and years to really learning how to run successful software companies and really be able to do that. And then I had the idea for Maestro back in 2016. And the rest is history, man. And here's the one thing though. I had to be confronted with a great demon that we talked about earlier, which is people doubting you. But now, because people didn't understand this industry, even successful people, here's another nugget too. Sometimes we look for validation in successful people and they may not even understand the path that we're on.
Right.
That was the biggest lesson, brother. I had to learn.
Right.
I would go to these Black millionaires that I knew and say, hey man, I'm building this tech company. They didn't understand it. So they're looking at me like, okay, cool, keep building.
All right.
You know what I mean? And I had to have thick skin or, realizing that it takes years to build a tech company and that the software wasn't going to be good at first. and people weren't going to come along for the long ride with me. So I had to really build up endurance. But man, what my team and what we've built, especially what we're about to come out with too, man, it's just been really game changing. And it's just been a frustrating ride in the beginning, man. But when you stick with anything, it becomes a great ride. So
Man, awesome, beautiful. So tell us about Maestro. I mean, you got it coming out. You got some new stuff. How can people? What is first? What is Maestro? And then tell people how they can get involved with Maestro.
yeah, for sure. So Maestro is one of the greatest platinum. It actually is a great platform. But I had the idea for Maestro because I was a frustrated course creator. I needed something that was simple, man. A lot of tools out there, you got to hire somebody to run it. You got to do something. They're great tools, but at the same time, like, you have a business to run, and most of us don't have $5,000-$10,000 to pay a consultant just to set up a piece of technology. So my first mission was, how can I make something really simple, really easy, that had a lot of features that people can benefit from, to take the knowledge out of their head and turn it into, I call it digital real estate. Digital real estate is building these products once and selling them over and over and over again, some you've done successfully, right? And they're building these things from ebooks to courses to membership sites. There's so many different ways, to high ticket programs, charging, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for a program that came out of your head. So it's just breaking down the barrier. So we help with the technology and making the technology easy for people to be able to do so. And so Maestro does it. I mean, does a lot of stuff. Some of the core features, like, it manages your members for you, protects your content. It basically hosts your videos, your audios, your PDFs. It takes payments, and we just rolled out new features like building a landing page. You can drag and drop and build a whole landing page from scratch. So, we've been working on it for the past, 4 or 5 years, and I'm proud of where it's came to, and how happy customers are with the product nowadays.
Man, this is beautiful. And remember, it's owned by a brother. This is a brother. And bootstrap, right? There's no venture capitalists that have helped you along the way with this. And we got to talk about that.
Out of my pocket. Yeah, it all the money. I remember asking people, could they invest in it? And I got a lot of no's. And so what I decided to do is take my skill sets of course creation and use all those funds and basically fund something bigger and better, and something that can really create generational wealth, and also do something really, really big in the tech space. So yeah, this is what we built.
This is hot, man. This is hot. So how can people sign up or get more information about Maestro?
Yeah, so we got a 14-day free trial. Go to maestro.com. So it's spelled, most people spell it MAE, but it's spelled actually Maestro. So it's MIESTRO.com. Put that in your browser. Go to it. You get to sign up for a free trial. And if you guys do sign up for a free trial, I got some bonus training for you guys on how to build out your online course. If you want to learn how to build out your online course, I've built so many courses on how to build, teaching, training people. I love doing it. It's just I'm not one of those super tech dudes. Like, I come from the info space. So I love training people, man, and getting them results. So, hit me up on Instagram at CEO Justin Burns. That's the hashtag, or should I say the username, mm-hmm. And just let me know that you signed up from a trial from this. And yeah, man, I'll send you guys some bonus training.
No, this is beautiful, man. So thank you so much for that. And again, that's maestro.com. And what's the handle again over on Instagram?
Yes, CEO Justin Burns. So CEO, my name, full name. And just hit me up and let me know that, you signed up for a trial, and I'll do the best I can to help you in any way I can.
This is good, man. I'm glad that we had this conversation. But again, you planted, I've just been writing stuff, just seeds that you've been planting. I just got all types of stuff written down here. So we definitely got to have you back, man, because there's some stuff we want to unpack. Definitely what you talked about with venture capitalists. I think that's a great subject that a lot of our people are just not familiar with, especially with technology and software companies. And I know you got a lot of insight on it. So we definitely got to do a part 2. Man, this has been great. I'm like, I still want to talk. I know we over time. I'm looking at the clock right here. We're literally over time, but this has been a great conversation. And so I'm looking forward to the next conversation, dear brother. I really am.
Yeah, definitely, man. And shout out to you for really getting this information out to the people, and doing these interviews. And that's why, I try to be as transparent as possible with everything, because we're all on a journey, right? And the biggest thing is that journey is not an easy journey. And you just have to enjoy the journey as best as you can,
Yeah.
through all the trials, through all the tribulations. But what's going to happen is if you stop in the middle of the journey, you're going to have way more regret than you pushing through.
Yeah.
So for me, all I can see, and I tell my friends this, and they think that I'm just like, they don't get it. And this is what people say, you're crazy, or they say like you're a visionary. But all I can see, Brother Bedford, is just making a big impact, creating generational wealth for my kids and my wife and my family, and just making sure that at the end of the day, when I'm in that box, right, that people say, man, that dude made an impact. I don't want them, man, Brother Beth, I don't want them fake words. I don't want, you could just tell at some people's funeral, man, you could just tell they trying to find the words. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I want it to flow. I want them to get on there. I want it to be passionate. Like, Justin impacted me. You can, like, they breaking down from so much impact that my life had on theirs, right? And so that's just what I wish for everybody watching this, is just go out there, be great. I know that's a saying, but I really do mean that. Like, fight your demons, go through it, man. It's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's just greatness on the other side if you realize that.
Man, you know what? I normally ask some closing words, but that was it. I mean,
That was it.
we don't need to add nothing else to that. That's the final note. So again, thank you, dear brother. This has been very thoughtful, insightful, and beneficial, not only just for the audience, but for myself as well. And I'm looking forward to part 2 with Justin Burns.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, dear brother.